All right, part two, continuation of the stream that I did yesterday regarding this whole Black Sit Bandulu business type of thing, right? So I was just on the unapologetic Negropean stream, kind of with his doing his recap of the kind of drama stream that was done the other day. Was it like 2 days ago now? You see, now this is what I'm seeing. And again, I'm just speaking my opinion, what I'm witnessing, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing in chats and whatnot. There's this thing in the diaspora, especially, that when it comes to having to hold people accountable for what they do, when you're questioning people, when you're seeing things and things aren't adding up as they should, when things appear to be very questionable, for some reason, it turns into oh, we shouldn't jump to conclusions, or you shouldn't say this should be done offline. How dare you say this about this person? For those that saw that stream the other day, and here's the thing, I'm not on any one side when it comes to this. I only go off of what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, right? I'm not down with this Black Sit thing. I'm not a Pan-Africanist. I'm just someone that's seeing something. I come from a particular background when it comes to the field of work. And, I'm just putting two and two together with what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. And so the other day on that stream, one thing that really, two things actually that really stuck out to me. The first thing, I am more than certain that I heard the Black Sit woman, Juliet, say something along the lines of that your investment would have not been secured because you're not a citizen, or something to that effect, is what I heard when she was when she joined that panel, and she was trying to rebut everything that her clients were saying. This says to me, and I think I even said this yesterday, but I'm going to re-emphasize it again. This to me says that you had knowledge of this prior, that you were engaging, whether or not because you're disputing that you're the land agent, but you're involved in something when it comes to getting people land, and you knew that because they didn't have maybe certain type of documentation or certain types of status in the country, that their investment would not be secured. And so, okay, you might have known that prior. Maybe you'll say, you know what, I didn't know, I had to do research, and now I'm finding out that it wouldn't have been secure. Either way, it doesn't work. It doesn't pan out well. You cannot use that as a cop-out to say, well, I didn't know before and I found out now that it wouldn't be secure anyway. Because as someone that is engaging in this, you should have known. You have to know what you're doing. Then this is what I'm saying. This Bandulu business this is crooked. This is crooked. This is not proper business. I have to question how were these transactions carried out? Was this done through PayPal? Was it done through a business PayPal transaction? Was this done through a wire? Was this done, you go and send the money via bank transfer? Was it transferred to a bank account, a business bank account, or to a personal bank account? Was it put in their name? Are these people registered? Because it doesn't sound like any of this is going on. And so it's really disheartening and quite disgusting that when people are trying to ask these questions, when people are trying to get to the bottom of this thing, you've got other people, and they're probably just, minions or whatever, that want to start throwing questions in people's faces and saying, well, who are you to say this, and fraud? You can't say that this is fraudulent. If it, the saying, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and probably swims like a duck, it's probably a duck. If you're carrying yourself in a certain type of way when it comes to this business thing, if you're maybe not returning calls on time after you've taken people's money, if you're deflecting, if you're coming up with excuses as to why things are not getting done efficiently, if you're unable to explain things without flying off the handle, what does that tell you? That says to me that you have something to hide, and it's not anything good. So people have a right, even as spectators have a right to form an opinion on something like this, especially those who have invested their money, but even to spectators as well. Because at the end of the day, everyone could be a prospect customer. So we all have a right to say what we want to say. You should be held to account. We wouldn't do this with anyone else. If someone else was taking money and appearing to be not so transparent, and you can't seem to find out certain information, and this person isn't licensed, and they can't seem to sit down and have a decent conversation without things turning into deflections, insults, blame game, saying to someone, well, why didn't you get your family member to do it instead? That is such a that's such a deflection. Saying something like that, well, why didn't you get so-and-so to do it? You could have just handled it yourself. You're providing the business service. Supposedly, you're supposed to be providing this service. So if I see that you're providing a service and I am willing enough to trust you with the money that I've worked hard for, who are you to tell me who I should have gone to instead? You've advertised yourself as a business. I'm taking you up on that offer. Fine. I'm going to trust you. This is so disgusting. What is going on? Then you had her husband or whatever coming on after there was talk of people sort of making a coalition to go against them legally. Talking about, well, we deal with either, I think he said either 100 or hundreds of people, almost to insinuate that they're unable to cope with the volume of clients that they're receiving. That's your problem. That is no one else's problem but yours. It's not the customer's problem. If you are unable to handle a high volume of clients, then you create a waiting list. That's what you do. You don't take on a whole bunch of people and then you're trying to half-ass every single job that you're doing, trying to make it by. That's not okay. And maybe you're not doing it to every customer. Maybe you're not even doing it to half of your customers. This could be a very small minority, but the point is this: the way that it's being handled, especially online. You want to talk about people trying to damage your brand. You're damaging your own brand. You're not carrying yourself proper. You're not doing your business proper. And it's reflecting badly on other people in the diaspora. Not necessarily people that want to do business, but people that may show an interest in wanting to go to Africa. And now look all this chaos that's ensuing on top of this automatic citizenship nonsense. It's really creating issues. People are seeing it. People abroad are seeing it. And those who have family back in Africa, I'm pretty sure that they're communicated, and rightfully so, back to their relatives that this is what's going on. And you need to be wary. You can't blame them. What are they meant to do? This is not okay. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this stream as well is because I was listening to the stream again, more so towards the end. I've just been re-listening to make sure that I can understand what is going on. And this one guy that jumped up onto the stream, Jahi Issa, I recognized the voice. And when he said his name, my eyebrows really raised. And I said, I know that name. That name rings bells in the Sarnetta 125th Street Black News 102 outfit. That whole collective of people. Because he was around those sorts of people. Now, I'm not saying that he's a scammer or nothing like that, but I just found it quite interesting how, that Sarnetta TV element are known for promoting fraud and scams to people and then holding their hands up and saying that they are not accountable for people being defrauded despite them promoting these things to people without vetting, right? So I found it really interesting that when I went to go and look for the stream where apparently Blacksit was trying to rebut the entire stream that Negropean did, I see this thing say, I think the stream something like it's all lies or something to that effect. And I clicked on it, so I thought, okay, let's hear what she has to say, because I'll be willing to hear her side, because there was a lot of yelling the other day, and it was her sitting there with Jahi Issa talking about history or something irrelevant. So I thought, okay, right, this makes sense, because I was trying to understand what was he talking about on the stream the other day, talking about violence and unapologetic European is creating an environment of violence. Now I'm seeing, okay, you are on her stream, you're on her platform. She's putting you onto her platform. Okay, that's making sense as to why you're on there. But this is ridiculous. No one was threatening violence. But again, this is the deflection tactics. This is to shift from being held accountable. Now you want to act like a victim and say, well, someone's threatening to attack me. Someone's going to do this and someone's going to do that. If you live in the Gambia, then go to the police. I listened to that stream. I was there while it was live. I think I was there for about an hour and a half before I had to go and do what I was doing. And I didn't hear no violence. I heard up to the point where, Julia or whatever, she was on the panel and she was yelling. I remember her yelling a lot. But again, I was on the tube train, so the Wi-Fi is in and out. I'm going between stations and whatnot, and by then I just gave up because it was just like I'm missing out too much of what's going on, right? But I rewatched the whole stream. I didn't hear anyone threaten any violence towards her. If violence is called for accountability, then yeah, I guess you were being threatened violently with accountability. But this is really really ridiculous. And all you people that's out here trying to deflect accountability and say, well, she's done stuff for other people, that doesn't mean anything. That does not mean anything. Yes, things happen in business where not every customer is going to get the best experience for whatever reason. Things happen. However, it's how you correct it. It's how you deal with the issue. It's how you rectify it. It's how you communicate with the customer. If you're saying that you're calling these clients and they're not picking up the phones, note that down. Create a profile for each of your clients so that you can account for all the times if they're not doing their part as a client. But it doesn't seem like it's like that. It doesn't seem like it's like that at all. I can only go off of what she's presenting and what her man is presenting. And it didn't look good, didn't sound good, didn't seem credible. Had a whole bunch of excuse making. Oh, I had pneumonia. Oh, I had food poisoning. So that don't mean nothing. You had pneumonia, so what? I get bronchitis all the time. Does that give me an excuse that when I'm doing my eBay sales, all of a sudden I can't do nothing and I'm just going to take your money and not send your stuff? No, that's no excuse. Oh, they're texting me at all hours of the night. Yeah, people live in different parts of the world. If you're so concerned about that, be more professional and have an email. But business email account. Maybe you don't have a business email account because maybe you're not an actual business entity. I don't know. But this is not okay. This blame shifting, don't hold me accountable, I'm black, how dare you mindset, this way that people are carrying themselves about, it's not okay. And I will ask this again as well. Where is the energy? The same energy that's being put into the Gambia. I'm so Pan-Africanist, I'm so this, I'm so that. Why is this not being put into your country of origin? A majority African descent country of origin. Why is that? Why is that? But I've seen where people are disrespecting Gambians that live abroad, saying you're not in your country, she's in your country doing what you should have been doing. Oh, well, she's not in her country either. She's not in her country. Jamaica can do with a lot of help. And for anyone that keeps up with what's going on, if you check Carib Nation TV, they had a recent video with Horace Chang in Jamaica. There was a conference and Horace Chang was on there, and someone was asking about, obviously the security issues in Jamaica, the crime and so on and so forth. Should the diaspora get involved? Why not try and involve yourself in trying to curb and eradicate this rampant these rampant just gangs everywhere. Why not do that? These gangs that terrorize communities, that give Jamaica such a bad name, that bring Jamaica into disrepute globally. Why not work on that? But instead, you want to go to Gambia, demand them for automatic citizenship, use slavery as your weapon to strong arm them into giving them something that you want so you can benefit. It's unacceptable. And I did a calculation today, speaking of the automatic citizenship, right? I think there's probably roughly around 70 million people in the African diaspora. Let's say about 70 million, give or take, 50 to 70 million, right? If it's 50 million people that have the right to get automatic citizenship to the Gambia, 1% of that 50 million is 500,000 people. If I'm not mistaken, Gambia has a population of either just under or slightly over 2 million people. If just that 1% was to decide to take up the passport and try and take advantage of whatever opportunities are in the Gambia, that's an extra 500,000 to almost 750,000 people to the Gambia. How is that fair on Gambian people? How are they going to compete with that? A point that was brought up on Unapologetic Negropeans Live today, even, with Jamaica's land being so expensive because Americans are buying it up. Foreign people are buying it up. What the hell is that going to do in the Gambia? If you have all these people from the diaspora coming up and buying land, things get more expensive the rarer they are. The more scarce land is, the more expensive it's going to get. How is that going to help Gambians? What's that going to do for Gambian people? How are they going to be able to afford it? Are they being edified by the diaspora, or are they just being given jobs to be paid a little bit extra than maybe what they would have got? Is that edifying them? I don't think it is. That does nothing for them. It's a this automatic citizenship is a very, very self-serving idea. And I really hope that it doesn't get passed. I really hope it doesn't. I really feel like that would be a very, very huge dividing fracture. We're already divided. Not to say that there's ever going to be some kind of we are one unity. That's not realistic. But this is going to create even more of a fracture by doing this, giving the diaspora access to citizenship of a very, very tiny country, if not the smallest country in the mainland African continent. This is not good. This is really, really bad. And all I can do is hope that this thing doesn't go through, that this whole outfit of land dealing gets exposed and gets dealt with, and that the people that have been taken advantage of get their money back. They won't be silenced when they're talking about their experience and warning people. Because, this is what I'm saying. Everyone wants to talk all this black unity, but no one wants to talk about black accountability. You take someone's money, you don't do the right thing. You don't handle it correctly. I understand everything goes, certain things can go wrong in business. Not everything is perfect. But it's how you deal with the situation is what really shows. And the way that she dealt with that on that live stream was very telling of her character and the way that she's conducting business. Like it's some little hustle on the street, some little estate hustle. Oh, I just sell you some land. I'll give you some papers. Here, you go figure it out. You're bothering me now. Don't call my phone. Don't text me at certain times. It's not good. It's really not good. Well, I can see that there's 2 people watching at least. I'll drop the link. I don't know if anyone wants to come on. If not, that's me tirade over for now, I guess. But, really and truly, Gambians and other people from various countries in Africa, please do not allow people from the diaspora to guilt you into, accepting this idea of having automatic citizenship and buying up land so that indigenous people of the country are unable to afford it, and opportunities could be taken away from them because, you know, there's going to be there might be some kind of an incentive to give to people in the diaspora, which is unfair. We see this in the Caribbean. Today I was watching the Central Bank of Barbados have this documentary. I actually was rewatching because I've seen it before, and it was basically showing a timeline from the 1930s into the 2010s of their economic, I'll say timeline. I don't know if you can necessarily call it progression to tourism, because I don't see how tourism is any kind of progress. But, you know, they were talking about, you know, these corporations and how, you know, they pay such little tax, but, you know, because they make so much money, even that tiny tax is enough to fund the health service. That's not good enough. So you're incentivizing with very little tax to attract these corporations who, frankly, are not paying enough tax. But now I'm hearing about food prices are going to be soaring, gas prices are going to be soaring. What's that going to do on the people? The people are already taxed half to death. Food prices gone up. Everything has gone up. Wages don't gone up. Where's the incentive for the people? It's not fair. This is not fair. If you really are so Pan-African, if you really care about Africa, if you really care about people in the continent, you would not be so selfish. You would think about their well-being before your own. You know, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I did put the link out there in case anyone wanted to hop on. But I'll maybe give it like another 2 minutes in case someone's trying to get on. I don't know. It's real tragic. It is real tragic how, you know, I really can't understand how someone from the Caribbean is doing this. It just doesn't make sense. Oh. Hey, TVS, how you doing? Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Yes.
Sorry, I just came in, so I'm not very sure about the topic. So let me just listen to you for a little while longer, then I can get my bearings.
No problem. No, it was just, for me, it was just more of a tirade. Like, it's just my frustration with this whole, it's really sad, right? The Gambia is such a small country, right? This tiny country engulfed by Senegal in West Africa, minding its business, dealing with what it has to deal with every day.
Mhm.
And all of this drama and highlight on such a small country, I don't understand it. We've got this movement, this Blacksit thing, demanding automatic citizenship, and how I see it is strong arming
Mhm.
Gambia into giving citizenship to the entire diaspora
Mhm.
because of slavery. I think that's unacceptable. But now with this business thing that's going on, where she's acting as if from how I'm seeing it, from how I'm hearing it, she's acting as some kind of land agent, but saying that she's not a land agent.
Yeah.
And people are sending their money. They're not getting paperwork on time. They're not getting information on time. They're being ran around and being told nonsense.
Yeah.
And their money's being played with, right? What is this thing about people going into the Gambia, buying up or getting land, obtaining land, however you do it, and then you want to sell it off to foreigners, essentially? I'm a foreigner to the Gambia. I'm not from the Gambia. What
Yeah.
right do I have to be buying up land in a country that I'm not a citizen to, I've never been to, right? And she's enriching herself off of that. And okay, she'll be like, oh, I build a borehole, oh, I give these people, you know, some money or whatever it is. You're just enriching yourself.
It's not
I just
enough.
find it really disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, for me, from a national security point of view, you know, she's selling land to people she doesn't know, just random people that are contacting her. And you don't know even the nationalities of some of these people, right? So you could very well end up selling, acres and acres and acres of land to some foreign, a Swiss entity or you know what I mean, posing
Mm-hmm.
as a diasporan. Then you're going to wake up one day, or Gambians are going to wake up one day and realize that whole tracts of land have been sold to foreigners and they no longer have control of their land. And controlling your land is a big national security, sector of your national security. If you don't control your land, that's a big deal, right? And for countries that went through colonization, that is really, really, really dangerous. Really, really dangerous. Because I mean, in my country's history, we had to go at one point in time in the 1800s, actually send a delegation to the UK to prevent our land from being taken as Queen Victoria's personal property. That's what she declared, that any unoccupied land in Ghana was going to be her personal property,
Right.
you know. And so that's even aside from colonization and everything. So you have to be careful. You have to know who you're selling the land to. There should be limits. And that's why like when I hear that Tanzania is being so strict about who they're allowed to buy land in their country and that they're only limiting it to certain towns in Zanzibar, I'm like, Tanzania has got their act together. They know
Yes.
what they need to do to protect themselves, and it's unfortunate that Gambia has just, shaken off the ropes on them by Yaya Jammeh, and just within a few years, they're being put in this vulnerable position. They haven't had time to figure out themselves what kind of country they want to be, where they want to go economically, right? This is the time that they should be spending figuring out for themselves what kind of country they want. But yeah, it's sad. It's really
It
sad.
really is. And I like how you brought up, you see, this is the thing. You were a British colony, we were a British colony as well.
Mm,
So we know what it's like
mm,
to have to be under that. Bearing in mind, for us anyway, the land isn't technically ours. We live in a stolen house in the Caribbean. This is not our land originally anyway. So that's kind of like a double whammy. So we already live in stolen land.
mm.
Who are you now? You're born in the
Yeah.
UK, raised in the UK. Instead of you going back to your country of
Mm,
origin, which is also predominantly of African
mm.
descent, who are you now to go into someone
Exactly.
else's country, start buying up land, and feel that you can do whatever you want to do unlicensed? This would never, and I keep saying this, she should
Yeah.
go to Jamaica and try and do this and see how far she would get. It will not work.
But she would not have dared to try this under Yaya Jammeh's rule. Why did she
No,
wait?
Yaya,
Why
Yaya
didn't she
Jammeh
do
wouldn't
this
put
when
up with
he
that. No, he
like,
wouldn't. He wouldn't. From
no,
what I've
there's
heard and what I've
no
read and
way
what
she could
I've
have been
seen,
doing
he was
half
very
of what
strict
she did.
about his land, at least. I'm not going to get into the atrocities and
Mm,
stuff like that because I'm not versed in it. But when it came to, the
mm,
Gambia is ours, he was on that. You're a foreigner. Don't matter how
mm.
black you are,
Yeah.
whether or not your ancestors even came from that region is another question. That's irrelevant. That is the Gambia and it
Mm,
belongs to the Gambians
mm.
first. You are not. Who are you to come in
First.
and want to start demanding things and dictating to people? Give me citizenship because 400 years ago we were sold into slavery, so they say. And you're demanding this of a country that was nowhere near existing back then. It,
Exactly.
it's crazy.
Exactly. It is. It is. But one
And
thing I
Ghana should have
noticed
never apologized either.
with her, and I
Sorry,
don't
just to
really.
throw that in. Ghana should never
Sorry,
have
go ahead.
apologized for slavery. You see, this is the game that gets played. This is really and truly the game that gets played because
Yeah.
now this feeds into, oh, well, you
Mm,
see that they apologize because they know they saw Ghana didn't exist. Ghana didn't exist. Why are they apologizing?
mm.
Britain existed, France existed, Spain
Yeah.
existed, Portugal existed, Italy existed,
Yeah.
the Netherlands existed.
Yeah.
All these countries existed.
Mm.
But go ahead, TVS. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
cut you.
No, this it's you raise a valid point because the history of slavery is convoluted. It's not a one size fits all. You know, there were many reasons. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. There were many reasons why what happened, and it was not just a clear cut case of we, as in those on the continent, are the descendants of those who sold us. I mean, there are so many different layers and stories in between. For example, my ethnic group were sold initially, right? So we were sent from
Mm-hmm.
James Fort here in Ghana to Jamestown in Virginia, right? Then
Right.
at some point in time, so for 50 years, well, a little over 50 years, from 1680 to 1729, we were under the rule of another ethnic group. So finally, we got tired of being raided and being attacked by these people and being sold by these people. So we banded up with a whole bunch of different groups in the south and to fight them. So the war lasted from 1729 to 1734. And then once we were able to beat them, we kicked them out and sold them off too. So if you're coming and then you have the blood of that ethnic group in you, and you're coming to ask me why my ancestors got rid of your ancestors, well, because they were oppressing us, you know. So no one's hands are clean is basically what I'm saying. And
Exactly.
you can't say you deserve an apology, but I don't deserve an apology. Are you bringing back my ancestors too? You know what I mean? You're coming back, but
Mm-hmm.
are you bringing my ancestors who were sent to the the American Virgin Islands? Are you bringing them back as you're coming back from the US? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to really look at people's bloodlines and say, hey, we're going to hold everybody accountable, it's going to be an ugly conversation.
It's a conversation that the diaspora is not willing to have or is not ready to have,
It's not ready to have.
because it's going to call into question this narrative that keeps being pushed of,
Mm,
oh, Africans just sold us, and the white man just came and snatched us up.
mm,
I was on Re-Empire's live stream a few weeks ago,
mm-hmm,
and St. James, brother from Burkina Faso, he
mm-hmm,
brought up a good point, and this is something that I forgot because I used to do a lot of visits to the archives and do a
mm-hmm,
lot of research into this type of thing as well.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Some of our ancestors were criminals. You
Some
might
were
have been
criminals.
convicted of a crime, you might have done something, and what
Mm-hmm,
happened to you is what happened to you. You had prisoners of war, you had criminals, you were taken through your court system. And not to say that Europeans didn't also help manipulate our legal systems, because we had legal systems,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
some of us were convicted of crimes. So what are you gonna
That's
do?
true. So exactly. What are you gonna do? You have stories of people who went to sell someone, and on the way back home, then they were captured and sold. So if you're the descendant of that person, how dare you want to hold someone accountable when you're not holding yourself accountable for what your ancestor did as well? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So
Exactly.
it becomes convoluted. It's either you come with an open heart or it's not gonna work.
And
You
that's
know?
that's the thing, that they're not ready. A lot of people in the diaspora are not ready for this type of thing. We want to talk all this pan-Africanism. I'm so pro black, I love Africa. But
Mm.
when you're upset, you're ready to talk about, you see, this is the mindset that got us into sold into slavery, and Africans don't like us, and blah blah blah.
Mm.
Which one are
You
you?
know,
You either African or you're not. And when you push this narrative that Africans sold us, you're divorcing yourself from the collective by doing that.
exactly. Because you're not one bloodline, you're a mixture of different bloodlines. So, and then the other thing is, when you really cut all the layers away and all the BS, a lot of people are not coming because they want to reconnect. A lot of people are coming because, ooh, I can own beachfront land for just $7,000. There's nowhere else in the world that you can get beachfront land for $7,000 or $2,000 or anything like that. So let's be real. You're not coming because you want to reconnect. You're not coming because you want to build Africa. You're coming because there's an opportunity that you could never get anywhere else in the world, and you want to take advantage of that. That's why
Exactly.
people are willing to send money to people they don't know, because they know that where else in the world can I get land for, $1,000, $2,000, whatever, right? It's too good to be true. So I might as well hurry up and pay it, because the opportunity may not be there anymore. And that's why so many people are being scammed, because they themselves know that they are exploiting, that they're taking advantage of, loose laws and things like that. And that's why so many people are being caught up in this situation. Because who in their right mind just sends thousands of dollars to someone they've never met for land they've never seen in a country they've never been to?
But I'm just trying to support black business. You know, I just wanna I see the brothers, they're doing something great. You see the smiling African children at the borehole. I wanna be part. I wanna do that too. This
BS.
is just like those Red Cross Oxfam charity ads that you see on TV where they're like,
Exactly.
this Adiola, she hasn't eaten in 10 weeks. You see her
Exactly.
belly's she got a pot belly. Donate £1 a week and you'll be able to feed
Exactly.
her. It's the
Exactly.
same type of thing. And they collect all this money, and there's no real account of the money. The money goes more so to the CEO and to the business
Mm,
itself. And it's just, oh, okay, yeah, everyone's been paid now. All right, we'll build this one well. So
mm,
when they ask, we can point to that. Oh, I,
exactly.
I built a
Exactly.
well. Look at what I did. I'm so great.
Mm, yeah. And it's a smoke screen. It's a smoke screen, right? If you see that I've done this good work, then it means I'm contributing. Then it means I'm useful to the Gambia. Therefore, give me my demand. I want the citizenship. Which other Gambian has done this? Just because a Gambian hasn't posted that they've built a borehole doesn't mean that they haven't actually done it. They just didn't run to YouTube to film it, you
Right.
know?
Exactly. I mean, it's tacky. It's really, really tacky.
Very,
I would
very tough.
never want to film myself. I've been doing, certain things recently because we've had a lot of natural disaster events in the Caribbean.
Okay.
So for me, okay, I'm in the UK. I'm born here, and the island that was affected isn't my island,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I have an obligation to do it. What would I look like going around filming myself? Like, see, look at all of what I'm doing to help with this relief effort. See, look at this. Oh, now I'm gonna go to their embassy and say, listen, I've done all of this that I did.
Mm,
I want access to your country now. I want to have the same rights as your citizens. What does that
madness.
look like?
Madness. And then the other thing I try to tell diasporans is, you're talking about all the money you're bringing in. Do you ever stop and think about all the money that immigrants bring into your country? The number of international students who come into your country and your communities every year. Have you sat down and taking account of all the money that we pump into your economies? And then you're coming to tell us, well, I'm bringing, $50,000, so you should give me citizenship. When I studied abroad, every single year I paid 30,000 Canadian out of my
Sheesh.
country into Canada, and I wasn't the only child that was doing that in my family, and certainly not the only child within like all my cousins and everything. We all studied abroad. So if we put that all together and said, you know what, because we pumped this amount of money into the UK and Canada and the US for 5-6 years, we demand citizenship. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. you
It
know
really doesn't. It doesn't
It
work
doesn't.
like that. And for someone of Caribbean origin in the UK, you
Hmm.
should know better because you
Exactly.
cannot try this back home. Listen, I just today I found out that they're finally for people like me, that second generation born here, I
Hmm.
actually can't get citizenship via descent to my country of origin. It's either
Okay.
your parents are from there or that's
Hmm.
it. Like you're considered foreign. It's only now that we're
Okay.
getting this opportunity. It's now going through Parliament to become a thing, right? So
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
Whereas but what was a bunch of us out here yelling and hooping and hollering, how dare you, you need to give us citizenship. I'm
Mm.
not when I go back home, I'm not going to the immigration office or walking around Parliament talking about I want to see the Prime Minister. Um, I listen. I sent some money back home to my family, and I helped my auntie dig up some weeds.
Mm.
I'm doing charity. Give me, citizenship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a passport.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling, the arrogance. And so at this point, I don't actually think it's about securing her investments, as it were. I think there's something else behind it, because it just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense that you
It
would
doesn't.
willingly put the national security of the country in danger, right? Because, a European can easily come and say, why are you giving them citizenship in 2 years and you're giving us a citizenship in 15 years? That's
Hmm.
discrimination. And if you go to
Right.
an international court would say that's discrimination. So you can't create different laws for different sets of people. It doesn't make any sense. So it's either everybody gets 2 years, or everybody gets 15 years, or something in between. But you can't have a special set of circumstances for yourself because of your skin color and different circumstances for someone else. Can you imagine all the other foreigners who've been living in Gambia for, let's say, 10 years, and they are patiently waiting for the 15th year to come along so they can apply, and then this person comes along and basically jumps the line.
Mm.
That's also going to breed a lot of discontent in the country.
Yep. Yep. It
Yeah,
will. It will.
yeah,
It will create It will build an even bigger divide, because
it
now
will.
it's, who are you coming into our country? You're from the diaspora, and you're overstepping your boundary. Okay,
Exactly.
you want to come back to Africa, you say you want to reconnect, then I tell you what, here's what you're going to do. Go learn a language, go identify with a group that will accept you, learn the
Mm,
ways, learn the traditions, blend in,
mm,
be one of them. Prove
yeah.
yourself that you actually are genuinely there to learn and to reconnect. And
Mm,
also go to your actual place of origin, because that's another thing that really gets under my skin.
mm,
Let's not act like everyone came from the Gambia. Let's stop doing that. If people want to be real, if especially if you're Jamaican, if you want to be real, go to Nigeria and try this.
mm.
Go to Nigeria. The only people that I would ever say that can go back to Ghana are the Maroons, because they probably still have an intelligible language that you could still understand in Ghana.
The Maroons, and then there's also some groups in Suriname who,
Yes,
they're
yes,
also
yeah.
Maroons there. So yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
But I know my people were sent to what is today the U.S. Virgin Islands. So, and some of them
Right.
still have their Ghana names. So and some of them have come and trace their roots,
Hmm.
because they have their Ghana name still. So they can easily, once you have, um, in my ethnic group, we have family names or clans. So once you have your family name, you can easily, there's a family house in the main settlement, so you can easily find your original family house, as it
Right.
were. Yeah. So that one is much easier for them
There
to
you
find.
go. There you go. They're not running over talking about we're just gonna go to Rwanda because it looks nice.
But I don't have a problem so much with people spreading out. It's just that don't go with demands, especially to small countries that are now recovering from, whether it's a war or economic, strife, or a dictator or anything like that. That's not fair. That's not fair on them. You know, to target a tiny country that is. I mean, the current president is even an interim president. He's not a permanent president. So they actually now have to work out their new constitution and everything, and then vote in a proper president for the first time in how many years. So
Mm.
give the country the time to figure itself out before you start throwing in, I want this immigration act change, and I want this and I want that. Because look, the first thing will be the citizenship. Then they'll say change the land laws. Then they'll say change this, change that, change this, change that. It's going to
Yep.
be a slippery slope.
Yep.
You know what
You
I
give
mean?
them an inch, they will take a mile, then they're gonna take a kilometer, then they're gonna take a whole country by storm.
Exactly. Exactly. So for me, this is a regional issue, because the other countries can't sit back and watch and let precedents be set in one country that will compromise every other country. So yeah. And I'm not happy with the fact that someone who is not a citizen now wants to advise the president on the immigration laws in the country. I mean, Rudy Giuliani and all these people were, lobbying governments, and look at them now. Look at all the trouble they're in, right? Because you're a foreigner lobbying a foreign government, you know. And in the US, you're supposed to declare when you are a foreigner lobbying a government in a country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let everybody know, because obviously your intentions are not going to necessarily be in the best interest of the country. So everybody has to be aware that this is what you're doing. But I found that, when I first heard of Blackset or Juliet, that she was going sort of behind doors and lobbying politicians and all of that, and I'm like, this is very dangerous. This is very dangerous,
What
because
happened to escape in the West? Why are we taking Western practices, corrupt practices of politics,
Mhm.
over to
Mm,
Africa? I thought we wanted to divorce ourselves from the West. But now
exactly.
you're doing pay to play.
you know so what's the difference between you and the Brit, or the American company that comes and does that? If you're saying that you're coming to help Africa, what's the difference? You know what I mean? Because you're doing the exact same thing that they have done in the past, but you think you should be able to do it because your skin is black.
Yeah, but TVS, why are you not directing this energy to the Chinese and the Indians? Come on. They're stealing your land. Look, Ghana's overrun with the Chinese right now.
That's a propaganda tool, because I've seen people online saying there are 900,000 Chinese in Ghana and blah, 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 blah. There are only 10,000 Chinese in Ghana. Like, really? Come on. So why are you inflating the numbers? It's to create panic. It's to create fear, right? If we are afraid and we are panicking, then, oh, look, the diasporans are coming to save us. So let's give them citizenship, because they will protect us from the Chinese and they will protect us from the Lebanese. Well, newsflash to you, Lebanese have been in Africa, West Africa, since the 1800s. So it's nothing new to us, and a lot of them have integrated, really. So to me, the Lebanese, there are sixth and seventh generation Lebanese in Ghana today,
It's so
right? And
funny
they're,
that because we also have Lebanese and Syrians.
mm,
But is Blacksit trying to fight to get the Syrians and Lebanese out of our countries? Me personally, I don't want them in the region because they
mm,
like to conduct business in a way that I feel is very unfair, and there's a buffer class, you see, that
mm,
goes on. And so for us Afro Caribbean people, we're suppressed in our own countries economically. So I would
okay.
prefer that they would leave. It's not they're not from there anyway. You don't have any history here. You just came here for economic reasons. You can leave.
Mm,
Go back to your
mm,
country. In my opinion, that's how I see it.
okay.
So it's unfair for other people from the diaspora, especially if you're of Caribbean origin, to tell Africans, well, look at them in your countries. They're in us. The Chinese, the Syrians, the Lebanese we have,
Mm,
Europeans. We've got all different people, Canadians, Americans, British.
mm,
These people that run the corporations, the Irish. Why? What are we doing? Hello, our telecoms, Irish.
mm, mm.
You every time you see a CEO of a mega corporation in our region, they're not one of us.
Really?
Seriously,
So, the Chinese community, I thought you had integrated with them. Is it still separate, or?
there's like two waves, right, of
Mm-hmm,
Chinese. You have the old
mm,
Chinese that came, like I think maybe in the 1800s.
mm-hmm.
My dad's dad is actually half Chinese, Hakka
Okay,
Chinese. So you
okay.
had those ones, but now you have these new Chinese that are coming in.
Mm,
I don't think that it's working so well from what I've heard and from what I've seen. I'm not there. Aline, I don't know if you want to jump in on the panel because he actually lives in the Caribbean, so he might be able to explain better than I can. But the
okay.
kind of, I don't think there's ever been a complete assimilation or integration
Mm-hmm,
because the other group, like the Indians, keep to themselves.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
Chinese
Indians
kind
keep
of
getting
keeps
called
themselves
everywhere. Yeah.
right, but they kind of just like you're part of the scenery now. The
Okay.
older, the ones that came from well before. Same thing like with the Indians. We're not
Mm,
all pally pally. Oh, we see them exactly the same. No, that's not the case. But they're part
okay.
of the scenery.
Yeah. Okay. Because I tend to see more Jamaicans who are mixed with Chinese than I do of Jamaicans who are mixed with Indian. So I thought,
Yes, yes.
it was more, there was more integration there.
To
So,
to us to an extent. I mean, it's not. There aren't many Chinese anyway, but I wouldn't say that it's like as if they're just part of us. Like I wouldn't say that. Not from
okay.
what I've seen. I don't know if Aline will be able to elaborate on that if he jumps on or types it in the chat. But I mean, our politics is race based anyway. That's how it
Mm,
works.
okay. And so you have communities that are all black and all Chinese and all Indian and all white in the Caribbean.
For the most part, I mean, I've only ever been to Barbados. That's where my mum's side come from.
Okay.
And from what I was told, the white people live in the east. I've never been to the east of the island, but the only white people that I see are ones that are there as tourists walking around in town, pretty much.
Okay.
Other than that, residential where my family stay, it's just African Caribbean people.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I mean, my family's different branches are mixed. Some have Lebanese in them, or European. That's it. But I don't. Indians generally don't mix. They stick to themselves.
Mm,
So yeah,
yep,
yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
We've got Trinidad is apparently Ireland is a majority Indian country. I didn't know that, and Guyana in South
Mm,
America, which is technically part of the Caribbean, is
yeah.
definitely majority Indian. And
Mm,
when they had the elections in 2020, I was keeping up with it, and you can
mhm.
see it's all race based. And when politics comes, then that's when you start to see the raw side of these people.
Mm. Yeah, because everyone will protect their community. That's how it is. Yeah. So I mean, just coming back to Gambia, it's for me, and it's really made me wake up because it's like, wait, our government has issued an invitation. They really sat down and thought about the long term effects, right? Because you can't just have people coming in, buying up land, demanding citizenship, and they are also still citizens of other countries, right? So now you're going to have, to me, for my particular issue is with Americans. You're going to have Americans voting in your elections. That for me is a security issue, given the
Can I just
history
ask why Americans though, in particular?
because of the history between Ghana and America. We've had a lot of interference from the CIA in the past, and not just Ghana. I mean, the American government has interfered in quite a number of African countries, from
Hmm.
Congo to Togo to Ghana, where they
Right.
actually paid for the assassination of, the presidents.
Oh,
So
right, right. Okay. Yeah, no, I understand. We had
exactly.
something like this in the 1980s as well in the Caribbean.
Okay, exactly. To the extent where, because, Nkrumah tried this before, where he invited Black Americans and actually the general diaspora into Ghana. And then it became an issue because he knew people were feeding information back to the government, the US government, but he didn't know who. So it got to a point where he had to kick, all the Americans out of the country.
Mm,
And it even got to a point where he couldn't even come out of his residence
right.
because he was so scared for his life. There were a total of about 7 assassination attempts on him. And, if you read the declassified CIA documents, I mean, what they were doing is just mind boggling. It was psychological warfare on him. And of course, people on the ground were feeding information. So for me, having Americans running around our country, for me, is just a no no. It's
Understood.
just,
I would say be careful of the British as well. You know,
mm,
anyone. You got was I never know what the difference is. Which one is domestic and which one is international? You got MI5 and MI6. One of them.
I don't know
is
the difference.
yeah, I don't
Okay.
know what the difference is either, but we had a leader in Grenada called Maurice Bishop who ended up being
Mm,
betrayed
mm,
by his right hand man. I
mm,
believe that he was doing this at the behest of the CIA.
mm,
He ended up becoming, I think, president for like 5 days, and then
mm,
America invaded and bombed this tiny island and ended up putting in, their little puppet leader and whatnot.
mm,
And the British were involved, were complicit in plotting with Ronald Reagan to have him assassinated, to get him killed, because they didn't like that
mm,
he was socialist leaning and worked with Cuba and made accusations of them building a military airport to host Soviet warplanes to attack America.
uh-huh,
Just stupid, stupid. If you see how tiny this country is,
mm,
I think they've got like what 100,000 people.
mm.
Where they keeping warplanes? Like this is ridiculous.
It is. But the thing is, the minute, the US hears communism, they go crazy. They lose their minds and they will do anything and everything to keep you in check, you know. And this was the issue with, and it's not just Nkrumah, it was with every government succeeding him. So, when I see the propaganda against China today, I just see history repeating itself. Second Cold War, and Africa is going to be caught up in the Second Cold War, this time between the US and China. And everything that happened in the 60s and 70s is going to repeat itself, because I see the propaganda wars going on. And so to have now a population coming in that's going to sort of really project that anti-Chinese agenda, to me is just, you're getting caught up again in a second Cold War, and it's a very dangerous place to be in. Very dangerous.
It's
So,
interesting you say that because I'm not fond of China, right? My thing
mm,
is how I see it, at least for the Caribbean anyway, I'll speak for. At some point, we have to be self determining. We cannot keep allowing other people to come in and handle stuff for us. Now, they own the Kingston port in Jamaica. I
okay.
can't accept this. And
Mm,
the reason why, if we're going to allow these people to come in and build stuff, you should be able to afford it. And this is what happens. It's like, typical thing with a loan. You take out a loan, or if you finance a TV that you can't afford, what's going to happen when you don't make those payments? They're going to take it.
true. So, wait, is it Jamaican Chinese who are running the port, or is it the Chinese government?
No, from what I understand, it's the Chinese government.
Okay. Okay.
At
Yeah,
this
it is
point,
dangerous.
we should be controlling things more for ourselves. Okay, we have so-called independence, and even that is questionable in itself.
It
But
is.
we should have more of a control on what we're doing. We're fragmented as a region. We're not doing
Mm,
enough. I don't know if you heard me mention earlier. I was watching a documentary today that was done by the Barbados Central Bank, showing an economic timeline between 1930 to about 2010,
mm-hmm,
and we were very productive between 1950 to about maybe 1990s, I would say. And what
mm-hmm,
did we do? We said, oh, tourism, service-based economy, much better.
mm-hmm,
Where are
mm-hmm.
we now in 2020 with a pandemic and the whole economy is crippled?
It's crippled. It's crippled. And this is what, I was having an argument with someone. You cannot make your economy reliant on foreign tourism. It is dangerous. It is completely dangerous. It has to be based on other things, because the minute something happens, those tourists are going to stop coming.
Mm-hmm.
So your
Absolutely.
educational sector for me is big. We have so many francophone students coming to the anglophone countries because they want to learn English. For example, in my country, we have so many Nigerian students. We have almost 100,000 Nigerian students who come in every year for their education, because they have a huge population, but they don't have enough universities to sustain that population. So they all come here, right?
Right.
If you build up your educational sector, you're not going to need the foreign tourism, because you're going to have students from all over Africa, from Angola, from Nigeria, from Kenya, coming to Ghana to study. If you build up your medical center, again, everyone in Togo comes to Ghana for their medical services, right? And the same with Sierra Leone and Liberia. When people are really seriously ill, they get flown into Ghana. So build up your medical center, and then you can have an influx of regional visitors who need your services. They can't do without your services, because if there are no cancer centers in Liberia and Sierra Leone and you have a cancer center, then you're going to be the regional hub, you know?
Right.
So those are the sectors that we should be concentrating on, not on having, and I'm not saying that I don't want tourists to come in. The slave castles are there, or the slave, whatever you want to call them, are there. And if people feel the need to come and have healing or whatever it is that they're looking for by visiting, by all means come in. But don't make your economy reliant on that. That's just dangerous.
That is really dangerous. And I like what you said about building up the healthcare and education. These are
Mm-hmm.
two very, very important things. And these are two things that a lot of people actually go abroad out of Africa for, is healthcare and education.
Exactly. Exactly. We have 4,000 students, Ghanaian students, going to the US every year, right? And each one is paying on average, anywhere from 70 to 100,000 US dollars for their tuition and residence. Imagine we're pumping all the money back into our country, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
imagine, because I calculated, if on average everyone is paying that much for the 4,000 students, that's like $175 million. That could easily build several universities or upgrade the existing ones. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we're
And
pumping
that
all
won't need foreign help. That won't need foreign aid. And this is the thing.
exactly.
Like, I'm not anti-Chinese just to say F China. I'm just talking about, we need to start doing things for ourselves. You guys in Africa have to start doing things for yourself, and us in the Caribbean, we definitely need to start doing things for ourselves. We can't keep
Absolutely.
relying on other people to keep doing things for us. Otherwise, we're going to remain in this same position. We don't have the steering wheel. We
That's
have to
true.
get our hands on the steering wheel when it comes to our countries. You see,
Yeah.
even simple things like food.
Hmm.
Why on earth in the Caribbean do we have an import bill, a high import bill? There's not
But do
really
you?
that many of us per se. Like, we're surrounded by sea, we have
Hmm.
animals, there are chickens
Hmm.
running everywhere. Not saying you should eat street chickens, but it's a sign that we do have like life that you can
Hmm.
eat. We have countries that can grow grain. We have
Uh-huh.
a political body called CARICOM, which is supposed to be encouraging regional integration, trade, and they're supposed to be trying to achieve a single economy.
Hmm.
And what we now, 40, going on 50 years in, and we haven't really achieved that much. We have nothing to show for it. This is not good.
It isn't, especially given the fact that historically, the Caribbean is where all the crops were planted, right? From sugarcane to tobacco to everything. So you should be able
Britain's
to,
moneymaker, definitely.
exactly. So you should be able to do that for yourselves and then export your excess to other countries.
And we got rid of the sugar industry for the sake of tourism. And this is what, if you see this documentary, it really will frustrate you when you see towards the end, they're like, yep, so guys, we threw away all of our productivity to just, tourism. Yeah, that's the way to go. Oh, look, yeah, we have all this nice beaches and stuff. Yeah, tourists, yeah, come in. Where's the productivity?
Mm.
This is such an issue. You've got people that are out of work now
Hmm.
because a lot of people rely on hotel jobs. I have a lot of family that cook in the kitchens of hotels, that clean people's hotel rooms and carry bags, and you're a taxi driver, and you rely on the tourists
Mm.
to bring your money. This is not good. This doesn't do
No,
anything for people. Where's the skills? Why are
it's not.
people? There's a deficit.
Exactly.
This is not good.
It's not. It's not. For me, I'm totally against tourism. Totally against it. And especially for poor countries, you hear about Gambia being a sex capital, or Gorée Island, pedophiles being attracted to Gorée Island. When you have tourists coming in, you're not able to control where they go or who they interact with. So you're now exposing a very poor population to people who are wealthy and are willing to use money to entice people into, you know, sexual abuse situations. you cannot say you're going to control every single person that comes into your country. So you're exposing, when you rely on tourism, you're exposing your population to all these ills as well. And once a child is abused, the child is abused. You cannot erase that memory from the mind. You know what I mean? So I just, when I see, oh my God, when I see tourists interacting with kids in my hometown, it just drives me nuts. It
Yeah,
drives me nuts because I'm
it's
like, good
understandable
Lord,
because you just can't trust it. You don't know these people. You
you
don't,
don't know them.
especially in Britain. Like this country, oh, if it doesn't encourage that kind of behavior, it definitely
Mm,
sanctions it because
yeah,
these types of people don't get no kind of punishment whatsoever. They don't. And like you said, they see a cheap place and they say, "Oh well, they seem to not enforce any kind of law here.
exactly.
I'm white. I have money. I can go and do what I want, and
Hmm.
this is not acceptable." And I really truly believe, right, that things should be made harder on tourists. If you are going to come to a country, kind of like with
Hmm.
Dubai,
Hmm.
tread very carefully
Very.
when you're in these countries. Respect the law, and the hammer should come down swiftly on you if you break any law. Really and
Hmm.
truly. If you're
But
there for good, genuine reasons, then
mhm,
fine. At the same time, this problem with sex tourism, and it's not just an African issue because it happens in the Caribbean as well.
yeah, and in
There,
Asia
there
too.
should be a certain standard of living that people should be in so that they don't have to do something like this. So you maybe don't have to,
Exactly.
allow your child to go with these strangers, you see.
Exactly.
And then that's a failure
Exactly.
on the side of our governments.
Yes, but when you know you're super, super, super poor, don't open yourself up to that possibility because you don't have the policing structures in place to be able to monitor people. I mean, like for me, I remember years ago I went to Chad. The minute I stepped into the country, they told me within 2 days I have to report to the police headquarters. The police have to know exactly where I'm staying. So apart from the visa I've been given, and apart from the questions I'm asked at the airport, within 2 days of arriving in Chad, you have to report to the police headquarters again because they want to verify that you're actually living where you say you're living, and they want to
Mm,
verify that the person who's invited you into the country is really legitimately responsible for you, right? And it's the
right.
same in Gabon, like all the Central African countries. Don't mess with their policing, and I like that. They're not
Quick
interested in
question: what is
tourists.
Chad like? Just out of curiosity, Chad is right under Libya, right?
Yeah, it's a desert country, or at least the northern part is desert country. Um, and they mostly speak Arabic in the northern part. A few people speak French, but it's mostly Arabic spoken in the north. I didn't go to the
Okay,
south, so I can't speak for the south. But I'm told that the
right.
south is more green.
Hmm.
And what it's Chad is like Ghana 30 years ago. It's very a lot of dusty roads and a lot of sand everywhere.
Mm,
But they do the francophone countries are very much into public art and public spaces. So in the evening, everybody comes out, or at least all the men come out, and they sit in all the public areas and they drink coffee and smoke their hishash, and there's chat and there's a whole community feeling. So it's
okay.
great. Yeah, and then they have a lot of public gardens and things like that, and public statues to honor their heroes and things like that. But it's very basic in terms of the country, like very basic roads. It's like the
Hmm.
Gambia in a sense. Everything's very basic. At the time I was there, they only had 2G internet, so using the internet was like crazy.
Really?
So yeah, but I'm sure they've upgraded now. Um, and then whilst I was there, there were some Boko Haram attacks.
Oh,
Um,
sheesh.
so yeah, that was scary. But yeah, I mean, the first time I went, I hated it. But the second and third times, I fell in love with the country because it's not about how great the roads are, or it was about the people.
Mm,
The people were so open and I can't even tell you. It's so open, so generous, so helpful. And the minute they hear you're from another African country, they want to know everything about you. And they made
mm,
such an effort to speak English with me, even though I was speaking French with them.
mm.
Um, yeah. So, but I mean, they still have a long way to go. in terms of developing the country. And then
You
it's
see
super
what
hard.
you said there about the country being very like basic, right?
Hmm.
You see, and that's another thing with this diaspora thing. People like want to go over there. It's like you almost want to make it into an African version of the West. Like you want to, they say development, like you want to have all these big buildings and all
Hmm.
this kind of stuff. Frankly, like when I go back to the Caribbean, I've actually been to North Africa. I've been to Tunisia twice,
Hmm.
and I appreciate the difference. It's not as built up. There's such thing
Hmm.
as overdevelopment. Like living here in London, I hate the scenery. Everything is too close together. You have all these ugly big buildings. You know, it's just it's almost not natural. Everything
Right.
is all just sculpted and engineered over engineered. You know, you don't see any kind of nature in it.
Yeah, I
It's not
understand.
nice.
Yeah.
You know, when I go back home, at least I appreciate. Okay, the roads might have potholes big enough for you to take a bath in, but
Hmm.
you still see nature. There's grass,
Yeah.
there's dust. Okay, you see
Mhm.
chickens and stuff like that. It's like, okay, there's an element of nature here still.
Mm.
We don't have
Yes,
all these big buildings. It's not necessary. For what?
it is. There are
Why
times
do
I
we want
feel
to destroy our
nostalgic.
environment?
Yeah. 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 So it's like I said, the first time I went, I was like, oh my God, I can't be here. Like this is like, Ghana when I was a kid. And then I just sort of took a moment to just know, like just appreciate the country for what it is. You know what I mean? And then after that, I saw the beauty in it. I saw the beauty in all the red sand. And it really is, it's like you're in a different world. And there's a beauty in that too. There is a beauty in that. Of course, I want, the average Chadian to have running water and everything
Hmm.
like that too, basic things. But it doesn't have to look like the West. When I go to London, I want London to be different. When I come to Ghana, I want Ghana to be different. When I go to Chad, I want Chad to be different. So, yeah, there is beauty in difference. There is beauty in the basic as well. And that's what some people are not understanding.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
Because I was
And,
watching Rene Marcus's stream. She was driving through the Gambia the other day,
mhm,
and the roads look really nice and smooth, really,
mhm.
really smooth, like they were freshly laid down. And
Okay.
okay, it's still a bit dusty. I mean, I don't. People say, "Yo, Africa's got so much dust." I mean, dust is dust. It's nature. Again, like, why is that an issue?
Exactly.
What does that even mean?
Why does it? I know. And sometimes I see my fellow Africans saying, oh God, it's not developed enough. We need skyscrapers and we need this. And I'm like,
Oh
look
no,
at
no.
all the skyscrapers we've built in Ghana. They're empty. Nobody can afford to be in them, right? They're all empty. And we don't need skyscrapers. We don't need to look like the West. We need to figure out what works for us, for our population. If someone is, living in okay, so traditionally people live in compound houses. So there'll be a central
Hmm.
courtyard, and then people will have, depending on how many families live in the house, different compartments in the house, right? But I find that beautiful. I don't want people to live in high rises, because it's not even conducive to our lifestyle. People pound fufu. How do you pound fufu in an apartment? You get what I'm saying?
Your neighbors underneath you are gonna hate you.
Exactly. You know? So we don't need to recreate the West. Figure out building styles that suit our way of living, our climate, and just where we want to go as a country. We don't have to copy. Anyway, that's my ranting.
I mean, I agree 100%.
Mm,
You don't have to be Western. You don't have to build these big buildings like you said. Just modernize it a little bit. You don't have to, like have things, automatic and, you walk in your house, the lights is just on, all this futuristic
exactly.
nonsense. That's not necessary. And
Not.
again, consider your environment. Listen, Africa is not destroyed like these other countries are when it comes to the environment.
Hmm.
And if you go the Western way, or even like how China's doing, you
Hmm.
destroy your environment. What do you have left? Where are you gonna live?
Where are you going to
Don't
live?
want
What
people in
air are you going to breathe? You
right.
know?
People talk about, oh, we're going the space age. We're living. No, no, no. We're not made to live in space. If we were made to live in space, we would have had capabilities to go to space and breathe in space, and we can't. And this is what
Yeah.
they do because they've destroyed their environment.
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes me sad sometimes, when I see people saying, oh, we need to come and build this and build that and build. No, that's not what we need. That's not what we need, you know. And I just get nostalgic for the old Ghana sometimes. I'm tired of all the concrete. I'm tired of all, in Accra years ago, there was a time of the year where the whole city would be orange, right? Because we had all these trees we call flame of the forest, and they were all over the city. And then someone chopped them all down. So now it's just concrete everywhere.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like sometimes people cut down trees for charcoal because they burn the wood to make charcoal. But I don't know, over time, people just kept cutting down trees. And unfortunately, people think that trees in public areas are for everybody, right? So someone can just go randomly to, a main street and just cut down a tree. And then, I'm taking it to go and make charcoal, right? So the concept of, no, this is a public asset, you can't touch it. It belongs to everyone, but it's not, you can't use it for yourself. It doesn't exist, unfortunately. So it's
Right.
something that has to be instilled in the citizens. So yeah. But yeah, the character of the city has completely gone. Completely. But I think, we just had a Green Ghana Day, or Green Ghana month, as it were. So I think we're trying to go back to what it looked like. You know what I mean?
That's a
But
shame.
yeah.
That's really that's quite discouraging to hear. But like you said, the Green Month, that's an initiative that has to be
Mhm.
kept up. I mean, what do you have if you destroy your environment? Where, like you said, where are we supposed to breathe? Seriously, where are we
Exactly.
supposed to live? Where are we supposed to grow food?
Mm.
You're basically just going to end humanity by destroying our own habitat. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. But all for
And
the
it
sake
comes
of
back.
money, if you're going to cut the trees down for charcoal,
Mhm.
it's just money.
Well, that's livelihood. Sometimes they sell it, but they really use it for their own daily cooking as well. So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah. But the thing is, again, it comes back to controlling migration, because we had an explosion of rural urban migrants, so people coming from the rural areas, and that led the city to grow exponentially without any controls whatsoever. So again, they didn't control the rate of immigration or migration within the country. And so that's when you had all those problems. So if you're going to have people coming in into from one area to another, you always have to have in place measures to control that. Where do they live? What can they or can they not do? Because what you do in the village, you can't do in the city. You're going to encroach on other people's land. You're going to, degrade all the vegetation. You can cut down as many trees as you want in the village because there are lots of trees, but in the city there are limited number of trees. So if you keep cutting them down, what happens? You get concrete everywhere and no trees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
So,
terrible. That's no good.
yeah. Anyway, let me get off and leave you to.
Yeah,
I
no
think there was
problem.
someone
I
else,
really
right?
appreciate you coming on. Sorry.
Thank you. I mean, your thumbnail had me laughing.
Yeah, yeah. I put that together today. I said, let me make a point with this thing
Uh-huh.
because this is what really gets this is how I see it. It's literally like, give me your passport and your land now. You know, they come with
Exactly.
the hotep gear and the kente hat and all this, and it's just
Exactly. And the cowrie shells in their hair, and it's like, oh
right.
god,
Right, and
yes.
you're acting like a complete Karen because you ain't getting what you want. And Gambians are
Uh,
just like that means go away and Wolof. I hope at least that's what Google said
mm.
with the little
Oh.
Gambian passport and the hat, and the bisap.
You know what it reminded me of? I don't know if you ever watched what was this thing called? Desmond's when you were growing
Oh
up.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So when I saw that, I'm like, this would be a perfect sketch in Desmond's. You know, if someone were to dramatize the whole thing, it would be so perfect for
yeah.
someone
It
to do a
really would.
play and show, just so that they could actually look at themselves and say, look, look at yourself and really think about what you're saying. Does it really, really, really make sense? You know? Yeah.
No, it's
So
true. It's true.
yeah.
That was a good show, Desmond. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. It was good. And it was good to see there was one Ghanaian character in there. And
Oh, let me make sure I pronounce his name. Is it Diabo Asante?
I don't even remember his name.
But he's
But
Matthew. That's his character's name. But I think that was his real name.
okay. Yeah. So it was nice to see because I noticed, I have a lot of family in the UK because I noticed that whole the issue that was brought up the other time, the divide between the Caribbean British population and the African British population. So I remember when Desmond started, everyone was excited. Oh, look, the two communities coming together and creating comedy for the Black community, as it were, and it was
Mm.
great. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some more investigation into that whole thing. So I was talking to my mum about it today,
Mm,
asking her like when she was growing up and going to school in the 80s, was this a thing? And she was like, yeah, no, it was a thing. The African
mm,
children were being mercilessly bullied. But I'm just trying to hear it like, different people, when you were growing up, what was it like? So I could kind of put a more accurate picture together in my head rather than hearing it
exactly.
just from one person.
Yeah, because depending on which neighborhood you grew up in, you may not have experienced it or seen it. And, whereas if you grew up somewhere else in South London, maybe you might have seen it more so than,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So, because I remember most of my dad's family is in the UK, and one of my uncles is married to a Jamaican. And I remember went to a party once, and pretty much everyone there was either Nigerian or Ghanaian. And my aunt, who's Jamaican, said, she didn't feel comfortable. Like she didn't feel comfortable dancing. And then I noticed that groups had, formed after the wedding itself. And it was sort of the Nigerians in one corner and the Ghanaians. And then, but because she was Jamaican, she didn't feel comfortable joining any group to chat with them. And which I thought was silly because I'm like, you're part of the family. Why don't you feel comfortable? But it sort of, she explained, that there's sort of a disconnect between the two communities. So yeah.
Yeah, it's see that's something. It's weird because I used to hear about it, but by the time because I'm only 23, so by the time
Mm,
that I was going through school and stuff, like this wasn't a
a
thing
thing. Yeah.
for me anymore. It was strange. I wasn't raised like that. It was never like a thing of those African kids this or Africans this African. Never.
Mm, mm,
Africans used to come to my grandma's house and she would feed them and sit down. Oh, kids, come in, have dinner. Don't worry. It's like Granny, we need to go. It's like no, no, come sit, eat. You know,
mm.
all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. We weren't going through that.
Okay.
So
So
for
it's
me
probably a
now,
generational thing.
yeah, I think it is a generational thing. Like this was back in the 80s and the 70s and stuff like that when the two groups were still migrating to the country and almost like it's like you're re-encountering each other.
Yeah. And then competition between, okay, who's doing better and who's living where and all that. So
Right, exactly. But
yeah.
it's just I think also a lot of colonial ignorance on our side as the Caribbean because you want to make fun of Africans, but you're just as
Mm,
African yourself. So what does
yeah.
that say? A
Yeah.
lot of people that continue that, I will say, like let's say people that are my generation in the UK of Afro Caribbean origin, a lot of us are
Mhm.
uncultured. If you really understood your culture, you would never be making up stupidness like this. You wouldn't be insulting people like this. You just couldn't
Yeah.
if you really
Yeah.
knew your culture.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was hoping that Mr. Yu would hold that, forum and just so everyone could have a discussion about it, because I feel like Black British issues are being suppressed on the YouTube space. It's always about the Americans, the Americans, the Americans. No, they're Black people in Britain, and they should be speaking about their issues as well. So I
Yeah,
just
I mean,
I'm
it's always
glad.
been like that, though, hasn't it? It's always been like that.
Has it? I don't know. Maybe because I have family in the UK, I haven't really paid attention to the US so much. Um, I just feel like, a lot of Black Brits don't really acknowledge their own achievements in Britain and don't talk about it. And I feel that sometimes you step back and let the Americans sort of take charge, and really they don't have any more achievements and they haven't gone through any more oppression than you have. And you really need to push your voice out there. So I'm glad that you have a channel and you're talking, and Mr. Uganda is also there talking. um, I just feel like, you know, you don't have enough representation. So yeah, I'm glad that you're taking the mantle forward.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on YouTube actually for a few years. This is actually my alt channel. I do have another channel, but I, to be quite honest, because I used to be doing these types of conversations and trying to get like, all the parts of the diaspora in one stream to hash it out, type of thing, so we can listen. It just turns into chaos, and it's just like, you know what, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I don't want to have anything to do with this Pan African scam community. I don't have anything to do with the Hotep make up stuff about Africa people. Like, I don't want to be part of this type
It's
of thing.
draining. It can be draining.
It is really draining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really and truly draining. Like, I just, you know what? I don't agree with any of this. I only go off of what I know. I'm of Afro Caribbean origin. I'm proud of who I am. I love my culture, and I respect Africans and African Americans, and Afro Caribbean people, and Afro Latin people alike. That's it. All related, and I'll just respect you as such. That's it.
Yeah. 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 It's true. And it makes me sad when I see, for example, like today I was watching a live stream, and a gentleman was in Southern Africa, and then it was like, see, we should go to Southern Africa because West Africa, and the West Africans and blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh God, now are we pitting Southern Africans against West Africans? Like, are we really doing this? You know? And there's so much misconception, within Africa and between groups. It becomes like, oh God, at some point, when do you just start educating yourself? When do you just take responsibility for educating yourself? Instead of perpetuating all these stereotypes and all these ignorant statements and all of that. It gets so tiring that, okay, now we have to deal with the Southern Africans as well, who also want to look down on us. Like, come on. you know I'm happy whenever I see a success story in Africa, right? So if I'm happy for you, why can't you also look at my history and be happy for where I am? you know
It's all about competition. Like, we want to say, oh, who
exactly.
suffered the most? It's just a
Who suffered
question
the
of
most?
Olympics. Oh, you didn't go through what we went through. I've been through this before on my old channel. I was doing this stream, right?
Uh-huh.
And you have this ADOS and FBA thing going on in the States.
Yeah.
And this guy, I can't remember, he was one of the two. And essentially we got down to a point of the conversation where he basically said that he thinks that they went through the worst of the West when it came to slavery. And it was just like eye roll moment. And then it's like, if you really want to be factual, if we really want to get down to the nitty gritty of like, if you want to see who actually had it worse off, you're not going to come out favorable, to be quite honest. Like, just being realistic. But this should never even be a thing,
It
that we're
shouldn't.
trying to see who suffered the most. And it's almost like, well, because I suffered the most, you have to give me the most concession or bow down to me.
Exactly.
You're so strong.
I'm the
No.
strongest. And it's ridiculous. It actually makes me mad when I hear Black Americans saying that, well, Black Caribbeans are different. And I'm like, how are they different? They went through the same experiences that you went through. Why are you trying to differentiate yourself from them? And a lot of people who are in the US now, Black Americans, came through the Caribbean.
See,
So
that I wouldn't say that's Black Americans though. That is the FBA's. There's a certain like sector of them that are on this. They're little cult leader Tariq Nasheed. It puts these things in their head.
I've heard
That
that name before. I've never looked it up though.
sorry.
I said I've heard that name before. Tariq Nasheed. Who's that?
Yeah, this guy, the biggest grifter on earth. First, he's talking about, oh, Haiti 1804, buy my DVD about the Haitian Revolution. Now it's Haitians are this, Haitians are that. Black people from Louisiana are just basically Haitians, and they're not a
Mm.
part of Black America, and so on and so forth, and being very disparaging. So I find it's that particular sector that
Okay.
are pushing this, because I've been to the US twice. Okay, granted it's only in New York, but
Mhm.
I was never made to feel away by Black Americans. I've got, family, they're not blood family, but married into my family, African Americans.
Mhm.
We're not like, oh, do they stay over there? Type. No, I've
Mm.
never been mistreated by one. Okay, on YouTube we have these conversations and stuff like that, but I'm also in a lot of groups with African Americans, and we get on just fine because we
Mm.
understand it's that level of respect. But I think
Yeah.
people that push this narrative of almost like a superiority, a suffering superiority, they don't have
Yeah.
respect for other people. They just want to talk
Exactly.
about themselves. And this is
Yeah.
where the problem lies, because now you're trying to, you want to discount what Africans went through, say, well, you didn't go through what we went through.
Mm.
As if, once we ended up in the West, Africans were just chilling on the beach and playing drums. Like that just was not the case. They
Mm.
suffered just as much.
Yeah. In different ways. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't
But the
easy. Look at
problem
how
for
long
me,
they were trying to break Africa. It took them
mm,
centuries to really break in.
yeah, I did. I did. But the point is, like, you have access to so much information. You have libraries, you have DVDs, you have the internet. There's so many. You can even go to the archives, right? Like, you're lucky you're in the UK, so you can actually directly go to the archives.
Yeah,
But
and it's
even
free. And it's
it's
free.
free. It's free. But even here, at least there's some things I can access online through the London archives or the British archives, and the same with the Danish archives, and so there's so much information you could actually access, but people are so lazy, or just pick up a book, I know it's like an outdated thing, but just a book, you know, and you can get all the information there. And, so I don't see why I should be answering questions about why is this country like that? Well, because your government did something in there, and it takes years to recover from that. you know what you're doing to Venezuela today, well, it's going to take them the next 60, 70 years to pull themselves out of it. So don't ask me why, because your hands are in it too, you know or take the time to learn the history, because for me it's very I guess annoying to have to say, well, because this government interfered. But I think you should know that by now. You should make the effort to find out.
People
So
only know that when it's convenient. When you want to look like you're smart and you're a history buff, that's when you start bringing up that America interfered in everything, Britain
mm,
interfered in everything, Canada interfered with everything. But then when it comes to talking, 101, it's like, well, why is your country like this? Why is it so underdeveloped? All
I
of a
know.
sudden, amnesia. Oh, you don't remember why? If you want to know something, like you said, pick up a book. Go read How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. Go read
Yeah.
that.
Good Lord. And it's
Honestly.
like you're using the exact same rhetoric that has been used by Europeans against Africans. So how are you different again? If you're going to use the exact same derogatory language that's been used on you or and against you on Africans or on Caribbeans or on whoever, then how are you really different? You know? So, yeah, sometimes it just gets too
Ignorance
much.
and lack of just a basic respect. And I don't want to tar all Black Americans, but it's this subsect,
Mm,
these particular people, especially under this Tariq Nasheed cult, that
mhm,
just throw all kind of basic common sense out of the window, that fall for this type of thing. I mean, even Yvette Carnell, one thing that she said that really it showed me like, yeah, she's just full of shit. She's just talking for the sake. She
mm,
said there was some kind of controversy, I guess, amongst them, where some Black British person had said something that they didn't like, and she
mhm.
was on a tirade saying, "Oh, you never fought in no white man's wars. You never fought for your oppressor." And I'm like, you've never heard of the British Empire? Like what? You never had a World War One, World War Two, British West Indies Regiment, people from Africa, the English, British colonies in Africa having to go to war. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. And then on top of that, we had to fund the wars when Britain was broke, right? Jamaica had to raise money, Ghana had to raise money, Nigeria, we all had to raise money.
That's our purpose as colonies. That's the
Exactly.
thing. They just extracted the wealth, the raw material. There was a saying that I think was like, not a nail is to be made in the colonies.
Mhm.
Nothing was allowed to be produced, but all they did was
Exactly.
extract the wealth, take the wealth, take the wealth.
Exactly. So how can you develop your country when every single thing that's being made is being taken out? And then on top of that, in my country, there was a rule that only the European companies could import, right? So they had 80% of the import licenses, and then the natives had 20%. So basically, when the Europeans had imported everything that the country needed, then you
Right,
could get patents, right? And then on top of that, you had to buy a certain amount from the European traders. So whether or not you needed, nails for your shop, you had to buy it from them as a minimum quota, right? So all your wealth is going towards them, going to them. How do you develop your country?
it's basically kind of like double dipping type of thing.
Exactly.
See,
Exactly.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So, there's a difference between West Africa, because West Africa were the extractive colonies, and East Africa were the settlement colonies, and Southern Africa were the settlement colonies. So obviously they poured more money in there. So there's always going to be a disparity. But that doesn't mean that, people are dumb. What was I watching the other day? And someone said basically, just because people are worse off economically doesn't mean that they're dumb. Or doesn't that mean that they don't have value? Or that doesn't mean that they don't understand how to um, basically handle their affairs. And I say to people all the time, listen, if you dumped $5 billion in Ghana today and gave it to all the young entrepreneurs out there, nobody would need anything from the outside world again, because there are so many young people who have ideas about what they need to do for the country, but they just don't have the seed capital to start it,
Right.
right? So if they had those constraints taken from them, the financial constraint, they would be able to do so much. But people don't understand that. If you don't have access to finances, you have to cut your coat according to your size. That's just it. You know, No, like I remember like a few years ago, I went to Dubai, and I was shocked because I was like, I've heard so much about Dubai, but that year, all their public gardens and things like that were not. I don't know. I think they were broke. So, and they had to take a loan from Abu Dhabi, right, to basically run the economy. So anything extraneous in the economy had to be cut back. So they
Right.
took away all the sprinklers in the public gardens. So all the public gardens, and it's a desert country. So of course, once the plants can't get water, they just died off, right? So I was like, wait, all the pictures I've seen, where are all the gardens and everything? It's like, we're broke. So you have to cut back. The essential services are what are going to be operated, and the things that are not essential, like having public gardens and fountains and things like that, they were cut back, right? So you'd have, of course, the Burj Khalifa and everything, the fountains there were there, but like all the extra things in the city were taken away. So if you don't have money, you're not going to have all these things and make a country look like a London or whatever. It doesn't mean that they're stupid. It means that they are funding the things that are essential, like paying teachers and doctors. And then the other things just have to wait until the country gets money to do it. That's it, you know. But if you're going to look down on a country because of that, well, then the issue is with you.
Don't come to the country if you don't like it. If you think
Mhm.
it's beneath you, it's not up
Mhm.
to your standards. Then stay wherever you're at, or go to wherever you feel is up to par for you, and that's it. No one needs
Exactly.
to hear your complaint. But just
Exactly.
piggybacking off of that point, and to me, this is where a diaspora is really important coming in, because I run a group, right,
Mhm,
with Caribbean people, whether they're in the diaspora or they live back at home, and people in
mhm,
Africa, whether they're in the continent or they live abroad as well, right?
mhm,
And one of these questions that I had was, what's more important, the skills or the money for the diaspora to bring back to the country? And we was kind of going back and forth on that. And one idea that came out of it was, let's say, instead of the diaspora just coming back and like for Caribbean diaspora going back, and we say, right, we're just going to start opening up businesses and we're just going to pay you a little bit more than what you would have been paid. Why
mhm,
don't we say to the government, look, there's a deficit in skills and certain things in this country due to
mhm,
education. Maybe we don't have institutions that can teach these sorts of things, right? If
mhm,
you want to set a criteria of what kind of professionals and teachers that you want, we can get
mhm,
X amount of people. If you can allocate a certain amount of money from the education budget to
mhm,
fund these programs, we can set up training programs that can take young people from start to finish and they get a qualification in the end. And now they have skills. So now they feel confident enough to go out and be an entrepreneur, or to, be
mhm,
whatever they want to be able to do, start their own business, be self employed.
mm.
This is,
Bingo.
sorry,
I said bingo. That's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is what we need. We don't need the outside, or people just coming in, and no, we don't want to go in there and take over per se and say, oh, we don't like this, we don't like that. No, edify the people. You want to bring them up, bring them
Mm.
up.
Yeah.
Don't stomp them down and say, oh, you're stupid, look at your terrible country. That's not
Exactly.
what it's about.
Because the brilliant minds, this is what someone was saying the other day. Why is it that, immigrants from wherever go to the US and they are the top of the game there, right? Because they had all these ideas in their head anyway. They had all these dreams, right? They just needed an enabling environment to actually achieve it. And so once they got to the US, okay, you know, you can get a job in McDonald's to start off and then work your way up to get other jobs. But at this, meanwhile, you're able to pay your rent, you're able to do everything, pay for school, whether you're doing night school or part-time school or whatever it is, get your qualification, and then build yourself from there so that the sky is the limit. You know, I'm not saying it's impossible in African countries, but it's a little harder. So,
Hmm.
you know, it's not because the people don't know what they need to do. It's not because the people don't have dreams. It's just sometimes the environment they're in. Because really, if you're every single day you're worrying about, where am I going to get money to buy a second meal for the day, you don't have the time and energy to think about anything beyond how do I get money to put food in my stomach. And that really constrains your mind as well. Because if you're worrying every day about what am I going to put on the table, what am I going to put on the table, how am I going to pay for this, how am I going to pay for that, you don't have time to sit and plan for the future. You really don't. Because your mind is just preoccupied with surviving.
Mm,
So yeah.
yep, 100% agreed. If people
Yeah,
were genuine, they would understand that and respect that.
they
But
would
it's about bringing solutions, not just talking down a country. I'm not necessarily the most positive person about our government that we have. I'm not.
understand.
I have my opinions, and it seems like they're finally making some kind of progressive moves by at least acknowledging the second generation and third generation who do actually show an interest in wanting to go back and
Okay.
contribute in some kind of way. But if you're not coming with any kind of solution,
Mm-hmm.
then you're not relevant. You're really not.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because all the talk in the world is not going to solve the problem. I mean, people have been talking from the beginning of time. If you're not actually ready to put a solution into place, then you're not worth anything to that country, really.
Mm,
Talk is cheap. you know,
yeah.
it doesn't solve anything. But I was just wondering, I know for Jamaica, a lot of repats or, second gen and all of that who are trying to go back have had issues with the crime in the country. Is that the same thing in Barbados?
Well, for some reason we've had a massive uptick in shootings. I don't know. I don't know what is going on. I'm gonna assume it's probably drug related, but
Okay.
it's concerning me. When I'm reading the news every day, I keep up with the news in the group that I've got. I have a news feed, so as soon as an article's published, it posts straight into the group.
Mm,
And it's starting to concern me that you. I remember actually, this isn't even per se new. 2018, I think, was the first time that I went back by myself when I first started earning enough money to be able to travel like that. And
mm-hmm,
I went there, and maybe about a week or two after I left, someone had been shot in the head
mm.
at the food court in front of everyone during the afternoon. And
What?
it was like, yeah, and it was like, whoa, okay,
Yeah,
that's concerning.
it
And then
is.
it's just been like a wave of shooting people, relaxing outside of their house, or they're sitting playing dominoes, they're
Mm-mm,
getting shot. There was one case, the guy that sells peanuts ended up getting shot and killed.
mm-mm.
It's just getting out of control.
Yeah,
Jamaica it's not a pleasant story whatsoever.
yeah,
Jamaica's thing, however, has just been that's like literally 40 or so years of downward spiral with Jamaica. I put the problems in Jamaica at the point of the 1980 elections and
mm,
the wave of violence that happened just in that simple year. I think it was 900 people ended up being murdered, and it's
wow.
just been a constant. The government funding these gangs, using these
Mm,
gangs to fight whatever political battles. And it's just continued. These gangs, they get their money, they get their weapons, and they become their own entities.
yeah,
And this is what's going on.
yeah.
This
Which
is
is
what's
a
going on.
shame because the Caribbean really should be paradise. You have everything there, you know, and you have such a huge diaspora who have been in the UK and the US and have like you are at the top of your game. So you going back, whether it's second generation or third generation or whatever, it's like a huge resource, you know? And it's like sometimes we just shoot ourselves in the foot, to be honest.
We literally are like we are shooting ourselves in the foot. The government's not cracking down on this, and I believe it's because there is complicity with
Mm,
what's going on to a certain level. There has to be, because if you're genuinely concerned about this uprising violence, if the
mm,
Jamaican government, I mean, to be honest, there's no point in them even trying to do anything because we know they're a part of it. We know that for a fact that
yeah,
JLP and PNP were funding gunmen to kill each other, to fight it out in the streets. And it's almost like a gang war mixed in with
yeah,
politics.
yeah,
You know that.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
see, they're part of this. They don't want Jamaica to develop. They want to keep Jamaica stagnant. All I know Andrew Holness, the current prime minister, to do is call state of emergencies because of the violence. There was a meeting a few weeks ago,
mhm.
and this was a question. I mentioned this earlier on in this stream. Actually, there was a question about whether there's anything that the diaspora can do to
Oh
help
my God. I'm
in
afraid I
terms
have
of.
to go. I
Okay, no
left
problem.
something on the fire and it's
No,
burning.
no, no problem. No problem. No problem. But
Okay,
thank you
sorry
so
about
much
that.
for coming on. I'm going to end the stream anyway. But thank you so much for joining the panel. I really appreciate having your perspective.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
All right, bye. Well, end of the stream. Everything has been great. I think we covered a lot, and it was great to have TVS on there. And Eileen, thank you so much for your participation in the chat as well. And yeah, it's all to do with drugs, all this illegal stuff. The governments in the Caribbean should start listening to the people. Yeah, exactly. But I will say as well, it's up to the people to make sure that they're heard, because I know for a fact not all of us are doing enough to make our voices heard. I think some of us are either really tired or just really apathetic and just, it's like, well, we just vote the next people in. We're not really politically informed that well, it seems. We just kind of think that it's either you can vote for one or the other. people's demands aren't being met. Basic things like having constant utilities is still an issue today. You see, these are things that need to really be driven home. Healthcare as well. I'm not saying that Britain has the best healthcare, no, but things could be better. You see, but no, I really appreciate everyone's participation. Again, thank you to TVS and to Annie for participating. I think I got more out of this stream than I expected to, and I learned some stuff today, and I hope everyone else did as well. So yeah, take care.